favorite story in the world is: woman is on the path that was instructed to her by her culture and by her family. Woman is unhappy in that path and begins reimagining her life and trying to figure out what it could be if it wasn't this.
Hello and welcome to the end of summer and the beginning of fall. I am definitely feeling this transitional time in the studio. I'm starting a number of new projects right now. One of them is this large commission, which is starting as a bunch of miniature experiments. A local couple are redoing their house, and their interior designer suggested this piece that I had done called Global Disco. And they want an original version, and they want to incorporate a little color. It's going to be very large, 60 by 40. And with this piece, I actually had done the original on paper at a smaller scale. So I'm doing a number of experiments right now to try to figure out the technique that's going to work on canvas, and also to give them some examples of the colors you respond to.
The excitement that you share with me when you've created a drawing, or you've discovered something, and you'll send me a little DM or a text and you'll say, look what I'm thinking about here. And so I feel like I've got a new friend, a new art friend.
I'll kind of need to put a layer on, let it dry, do something else in the meantime. And I find that for me, this is actually the most beneficial way that I can work. And the reason being is that usually if I spend too much time and I flip from that deep focus mode into impatience mode, where I really want to make something beautiful or finish the thing, or kind of get clarity on where a creation is going, whenever I flip from that flow to that forcing, that's when things go awry. Interestingly, I actually find that juggling a couple of different kinds of projects, some of them with deadlines, some of them responding to a brief, and some of them creating my body of work completely wide open, I find that to be really beneficial in how I handle my time. I actually find that too much unstructured time makes me linger in the sort of infinite possibility stage a little too much. And when I can pepper my day with these different kinds of tasks, sometimes just laying down a layer on a project, sometimes doing an organizational bit. What I'm doing this week actually is organizing my art supply room, which used to be my guest room, and over COVID it kind of transitioned naturally into an art storage room of sorts. And the interesting thing about working in a large scale, which seems to be the trend, I started off 8 years ago working quite small on paper, and just as the years go by, I want to work larger and larger and larger. You kind of need storage space. So I'm trying to organize this room and put some of my past work away, organize my canvases in a way that I can just grab them when needed, and also go through some of my old supplies and rediscover them. Stuff just gets really hidden in the clutter. And so as a super visual person and a highly sensitive person, I find that when things appear organized and are literally right in my viewpoint as I walk up and down the halls every day, I'm way more inclined to use them. My handy paint station, by the way, is glorious. I'm loving it. I'm using it like every time I go to oil paint, and it's really making the experience so much better. And thank you for all of your lovely comments about that. And I always love, one of my favorite things that people can ever say is that they're redoing their studio, and like something I have done is inspiring what they are doing, because that is how it works for me. Just like the way that certain people do things is something that I really attune to, and I take a lot of inspiration from other people. And so to think that I can ripple that outward, that is the closest thing that I think I feel to purpose in life. Another little bit that I am doing is I am putting the finishing touches on this peony piece, which I painted in the spring, and getting ready to send it off to its new home. Some of the things that I do to finish a piece is I will always paint the edges. I do not always paint them in the same way. Sometimes I'll choose an acrylic if I need it to dry really quickly. In this case, for the peony, I really wanted the edges to match the sort of deep brown natural background of the piece, so it just kind of extends around the edges. So in this case, it's actually a 2-week process, and I'll just go in, put a layer, set it down, let it dry, and sort of do one of these every other day until it's ready to go. As I think you know, I am on a constant mission to figure out a way of working that is enjoyable and seamless with my studio and supplies. So one of my problems that I have been running into is the palettes that I was using, which were like really, quite handy, light acrylic palettes. They were just not giving me enough space for my paint, basically. So I had this leftover pane of tempered glass from an IKEA shelf in my kitchen, actually. And for some reason, I never threw it away. And that's like so a me thing. I'm just like, I should get rid of this. I've had it for years just sitting here. But I'm like, no, I'll figure out a way to use it. And ta-da. One of the surprising discoveries that I have made over time in this being an artist almost every day is the work is actually a lot about movement, especially when you're doing large pieces. The way that I hold and move my body is so obvious by the end of the day. If I'm in a place of distraction and I'm holding tension in a certain area, I will absolutely feel it by the end of the day. And that is why I spend every morning doing some grounding and some stretching. And I also every other day take a little break around noon and do some rock climbing so I can be with my art and do my art in a different way. I've been trying to take the mornings to do something a little bit different and to use some of these supplies that I have to experiment with different colors and to do things that are completely unrelated to what I consider my style, my body of work, anything like that, because I've really been kind of trying to break some of the ideas that I have about the kind of work that I produce for this next season. And it's been fun. I have been experimenting with raw canvas and scribbling and using colors that I have not used in so long. And I have also been allowing myself to not capture the process because there's just something a little bit more free when I don't, oftentimes. There is the second layer, or actually I think it's the third layer on the clouds. They might not even end up to be a landscape at the end of the day. I have no idea, but I know that I'm really enjoying painting them and I'm really enjoying having them around and living with them. And that is what is important right now, I think. And this is Friday, the last work day for me this week, and we've got this lavender cloudscape, and I'm very curious as to where this piece is going to go. We've got little minis for the commission, which I am going to start executing next week. So that is all from me this week, and my partner Russell and I are actually heading out for a little weekend trip to Houston, which is like 3 hours away from here. And I have never really explored the city, which is crazy. I actually know, I think, far too little. I'm feeling like I know far too little about Texas right now. And I'm really in the mood to sort of explore and get out in the place where I live. And I'm also finding my work is kind of gravitating towards like a sense of place and presence and landscape. So a lot of these road trips, I mean, I'm literally just spending them kind of like looking out the window and looking at the sky. As usual, I would love to know what you guys are up to in your studio and your life during this little transitional time. I really appreciate the studio updates from people. And I want to say that if you ever do want to share your work with me, I would love to see it. And I genuinely mean that. So until we meet again.